Yeah, hi, I'm Jason Powell. I'm co-founder of a company called UK Vein Clinic. We are a Harley Street based medical business that helps people with chronic venous disease. We treat their veins in their legs to remove a condition called varicose veins.
The UK Vein Clinic is not just a smart choice for patients suffering from varicose veins, but is also a safe choice because it's a clinical choice.
At UK Vein Clinic, we see all types of patients from all walks of life.
Up to 45% of the population will have varicose veins, and fairly equally distributed amongst men and women, and probably mostly related to your parents.
But really, any of us can be affected by it.
The diseases of the veins are mainly caused by the fact that the valves in the veins malfunction.
A valve inside a vein is like a little door that will open to let blood flow through so that it can go back to the heart. But when they become damaged or a little bit leaky, then there can be kind of a little bit of a gap where the blood can flow backwards.
Because it's flowing back down to your feet, that can cause a variety of different signs and symptoms.
At one end of the spectrum, you can develop quite significant ulceration, which can at its worst be life-threatening. We like to see patients earlier in the disease cycle to treat them to prevent this happening.
The UK Vein Clinic is a new resource for those patients affected by vein diseases, namely thread veins, varicose veins, and venous insufficiency.
Our main method of treatment in the UK Vein Clinic is radiofrequency ablation, and that has got more evidence behind it than any other single technique, and is arguably the gold standard for vein treatment.
It's an outpatient treatment. It takes less than an hour. You walk in with your veins, you walk out without them. We seal the vein from the inside. It's less pain, it's a shorter recovery, and it's a better outcome.
I'm in the business of treating patients because I want to make people's lives better, and that's the main reason we're all here.
I love treating people with varicose veins because we always they have a smile on their face when they leave the door because they know that we've done something good, and then a few weeks later we've made a huge impact.
The most commonly heard comment at the post-treatment review is, "Gosh, I wish I'd had this done years ago."
I work with an incredibly talented team of clinicians, mostly based out of St Thomas's Hospital in London, near Westminster, famous for treating Boris Johnson, actually, during the COVID crisis. We work with specialist vascular scientists, vascular nurses, and a number of the vascular consultants at St Thomas's Hospital. We also work with a number of GPs, and our service is an integrated proposition combining all of the skill sets of vascular scientists, GPs, and vascular consultants. The business really is split. I own the business with my partner, who's a GP called Dr. Peter Finnegan, and the business really splits into two paths, I guess. One is the clinical, and Peter looks after that. So he's managing the clinic, the doctors, the patient experience. My role really is a business role, where my responsibility primarily is to promote the business and to get patients in the door. And so my typical day would be to have a look at the stats, how many people have visited our website, how many leads we've had that day, how many leads we've converted the previous day, what cash we've received in the previous day, what bookings we've made the previous day, and then really set the agenda for that day in terms of the sales activity, converting people, patients into our business. For as long as I can remember, I always wanted to be an entrepreneur. I've always been fascinated by the idea that a business takes a raw ingredient, does something to it, and makes it more valuable. My particular area of specialty would be services type businesses, and more recently I've focused on healthcare. COVID was a real kick in the teeth, if I'm honest. As a business, we've been growing over 50% a year for the last 2 or 3 years. We had a strong momentum, a lot of alignment throughout the business towards achieving our goals, and COVID came along, and we're a medical business, and we had to close down. It was interesting because we were advertising at the end or at the beginning of COVID, I should say, and we started to get a really hostile reaction from people on Facebook in particular, asking us why were we advertising when there was a global pandemic and all that sort of stuff going on. So that was quite difficult to deal with. And then we actually had to shut the clinic for 2.5 months. And during that time, we had to go into a kind of a holding pattern where we were preserving cash in our business, but also staying relevant to our previous patients, but also the patients that were in process and were looking forward to treatment that they could no longer have. Basically, I'm a natural-born optimist. I love people. I love being around people. I get up every morning with a spring in my step. And most mornings I get up and do some form of exercise, and being up early when the sun's shining, being around people early in the morning really sets me up for the day. And I have to say that I'm like a child before Christmas when I go to bed at night, thinking about the prospect of going swimming with my friends in the Thames, and that really motivates me to get up in the morning. Once I'm up, I guess the thing that really motivates me is making a difference to my community, particularly, and making a difference to the business that I'm involved in, obviously making a difference to my children, and that's ultimately what motivates me every day. What I'm enjoying most about my job is the sense of gratitude that it gives me. I'm really grateful for the opportunity to work with some truly inspirational clinicians that really know their stuff. And the other thing I really enjoy about my job is the variety. You know, I'm a marketeer, I run the finances, I run sales, I interact with the clinicians, and so variety really. I guess from a very young age I've always been drawn to jobs and opportunities that where every day is very different and very, very different to the previous day. Well, I started life as an accountant, very boring, and I didn't really have a particularly stunning academic career up to the age of about 19. I think I left with a couple of ROPE A levels. I left school with a couple of ROPE A levels. But what I would say is that once I got my head in the game and realised how important my education was, I would say that the entry requirements to being a successful businessman is to start off with a reasonably robust academic career and study and learn as much as you possibly can. Let me tell you that learning never, ever, ever stops. A big part of what we do is digital marketing. And I would say that the entry requirements for digital marketing would be some kind of marketing qualification, BTEC degree, masters. Many people are doing masters in marketing at the moment. And then most of all, alongside that, and I think this is probably the best bit of advice I could give anybody who's maybe even thinking of going to do a degree, is whilst you're studying, whilst you're learning, would be to get as much experience as you possibly can. I have a daughter who is doing a journalism degree. She started it last year. I think at the last count she had about 4 different internships that she's working on. She's got a video production gig going on. She's doing some production for a podcast. She's working for a radio station. She's been out to New York to work for a documentary company. What I would say is the way that you can finish your degree and be relevant is to have some experience that goes with it along the way. I've encountered many obstacles. The first one being that I finished my studies with 2 ROPE A levels and couldn't qualify onto any sort of degree. and had to had to blag my way onto a degree course, which I successfully did with the help of my teachers and my family. Business and life is full of obstacles, and what you do is you don't react too emotionally to them. You think about them as problems that ultimately have a solution. You counsel people around you, and one of the things that's really helped me in my life and my career is being surrounding myself with lots of bright, interesting, like-minded people, that when I do have obstacles or I do have problems, I can talk those problems and obstacles through with them and find some solutions. Well, we're a young startup company, and I would say that the biggest opportunities for young people in our company would be in the digital marketing space. We've recently taken on 2 digital marketing interns, and we plan to do that a couple of times a year. The deal is basically you come and work for us, you come and learn about our business for 3 months. We'll give you training, we'll give you all of the software that you might require to do the job, we'll pay all your expenses, and at the end of the 3 months we'll look to employ you if you've done a good job. At 17, I looked around, saw all of these successful people, and thought that it would be easy to be successful myself. But I've realised over the years that success without sacrifice is a myth. And anybody that wants to be truly successful has to be prepared to put the hard yards in. They have to be prepared to do the work. And it would have been good at the age of 17 for someone to have said that to me, because I didn't think that that was really the case. I thought I could just show up, be cheeky, be happy, smiley, enthusiastic, and success would come. But it's not like that. You have to do the hard yards. Well, when I was studying for my finance exams, I came across a guy called Peter Drucker. He's one of the most famous management consultants, and he had a saying that when observe the masses and do the opposite. And I've tried, as an entrepreneur, I've tried to do exactly that. When a good example of that would be during COVID, when all of the other clinics like us or medical businesses like us were closed, they'd shut down all their advertising. I had a conversation with a friend of mine in marketing and realised actually that at that point, that was the time when I should be promoting my business as hard as possible, and it's paid dividends. It's allowed us to get ahead of the competition, and when the reopening happened, we had a massive backbook of people that wanted to come and be treated by us. So observe the masses and do the opposite is a very interesting piece of advice. The other thing a bit of advice that I was given, and it was actually, I was given a rhinoceros, and I had this rhinoceros on my desk, and the piece of advice was keep charging. You know, there are a lot of obstacles. Sometimes it is quite crap trying to be successful. It's not glamorous. You know, people see success and they see the glamour, but actually getting there often isn't glamorous. So the bit of advice that I would give you is keep charging. So I can only answer this by answering it the way that I advise my own daughter, which is, the funny thing is, when I was looking at looking for digital interns recently, the thing that struck me was that the vast majority of people, nearly all people, had a decent educational background. Most people had degrees, relevant degrees. Most people maybe had gone on to, or many people had gone on to have a master's. Most people had done the kind of Deloitte's intern thing. And how on earth could I have chosen, without going through and interviewing absolutely every single person, how could I choose the right digital intern to go for? So I think that the things that I look for in potential candidates are, yes, that they've got all of that, because that's kind of like a hygiene factor. It's kind of a hurdle. I wouldn't even look at people unless they have that. But what I really look for and what I really appreciate in people is evidence that they've been proactive about their career, and they've gone and got experience, relevant experience that really allows their personal qualities to shine through, and they're the people that I want to employ. Okay, so now it's your turn. UK Vein Clinic is essentially a digital business, okay, and we advertise our product on Google, on LinkedIn, and on Facebook. But we're thinking about moving on to Instagram. So what I want you to do is I want you to go onto my website, www.ukveinclinic.com, and I want you to get an understanding of my business. I want you to have a look at what my competitors are doing. Have a look at the adverts for our business. Our primary keyword would be varicose vein treatment or varicose vein removal. And I want you to come up with a mood board, an idea, a kind of a story for an advert that I could then place on Instagram. And I really look forward to seeing what you come up with.